Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the MAJLIS of Hazrat MAULANA QAMAR Sahib Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Saturday morning at the residence of Hazrat Wala in Wasiabad, Allahabad, UP, India. Saturday, the 13th of Zulqa'dah 1444, corresponding with the English date 3rd of June 2023. Hazrat Wala just starts off like that, saying that you people know that Haji Imdadullah was a Muhajir Makki. He used to be called that because he made Hijrat to Makkah Mukarrama, and he would give the dars of Masnawi Sharif. Just now I was seeing that about an hour or 1.5 hours I was going through the introduction of Gulista. Now ulama should go through it. There are amazing topics and articles in it. Thereafter Hazrat Wala then starts reading the khutbah. Nahmaduhu wa nasalli ala rasulihil kareem. Hazrat Wala thereafter goes on to say that you must have heard about the names of Gulista and Bosta. Also, what about Masnawi Sharif? When I came from Darul Uloom, Hazrat Wala is saying, then Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib was busy teaching the Masnawi Sharif, and I also joined in those classes. Bhai Sahib was also there, and senior ulama used to sit in this dars. Hazrat Haji Imdadullah in Makkah Mukarrama used to teach Masnawi Sharif, and somebody even made a remark that Hazrat, you teaching, but these Arab don't even understand what you're saying. I mean, that was obvious that the book is Farsi, the explanation is Urdu, the audience in front of him is Arab. So Hazrat Haji Imdadullah used to say very beautifully, Ishq ki zaban ek hai, yahi mujhe sunana hai. And this is what actually I want to tell you today. Ishq ki zaban ek hai, that the language and the tongue of love is one and the same. So when you sit in this majlis here, something and something you will understand. Make dua that these people understand. And make dua also that there is ta'asir in our kalam, and our halat also become as superior and high as our mashayikh. Now in the Quran, and when a hadith is being spoken about, then the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. Rather, if there is a hadith explicitly saying that the malaika look for those gatherings in which this type of talks of Quran, hadith, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes place. And then what do they say? Halumma, they say to one another, come, here, our food is here. This is where we're going to settle, and this is where we're going to sit and listen. Now this year what I'm relating to you, I heard it so many times from Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib, this particular incident, that he used to sit, Hazrat Haji Imdadullah, amongst the Arab. He would teach Masnawi Sharif, and when questioned and was queried about this year, he said the very same thing. What did he say? Which I just mentioned to you now. Lisan-e ishq ek hai, that the language, the tongue, the understanding of love is one. Now because of that barakat also, these people here will understand. So lisan-e-ilm, the tongue of knowledge is there, maybe, but there is a need for us to bring about the tongue of love, lisan-e-ishq. And when will this take place? It is when ishq and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala penetrates and comes into our heart. Ilahi maqsood man tu hi wa rizae tu muhabbat wa ma'rifat khud bideh. Oh Allah, my maqsood is only you and your pleasure. Therefore bless me with your love and your muhabbat. Now what is it about? This is the special dua and wazifa of the Mashayikh and Naqshbandiya, and they would say it over and over, because perhaps sometimes it could be such that a person is sitting in the khanqah, he's sitting in the haram, but he's absolutely ghafil and negligent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, Hajj, the amal of Hajj is such that what you carry out there, you will not be able to carry out anywhere else. So we are saying that sometimes the skin may be dark. The skin may be dark, but the hearts are illuminated. Every place a person is told, shut your eyes, lower your gaze, close your eyes. But when it comes to the haram, then there a person will not lower his head down there, no. He will lift his head up and he will continue glancing away at the Kaaba, looking away at the Kaaba, because in it lies reward. Looking at any imarat, any structure doesn't bring any type of reward, but looking at the Kaaba, holy Kaaba, that will bring reward for us. So Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam laid the foundation of the Kaaba such that the fuyuz and the barakat of it is realized up till today. Now, I read this in Amirul Riwayat, and Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to quote abundantly. Hazrat Wala is saying that there was a person, one of the people of Hazrat Haji Imdadullah, and he came into the haram one day, and when he meets this alim and buzrug that was there, that buzrug now says to the one who had entered, "Oh, it is you that have come along now. Okay, I can understand it, because I was understanding an increase in the tajalli, in the fountain of the noor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the noor that is enjoyed and seen and perceived in the haram. I'm finding an increase in that, but now I know exactly why, because of your arrival." So what was he actually saying? That in the noor of the Kaaba there was an increase. Why? Because of the arrival of an individual who had the noor of Iman. Now that's exactly what we need to do. We need to make ourselves like that and achieve this type of noor. Now, isn't this the waqiyat of our own people? Should we not try and bring this in our lives and go up to that level? Understand, the Kaaba is rock and stone, bricks, and there is so much of noor there. But much, much greater than that is the noor that is in the heart of a person. Our Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to narrate a lot, Sirat Nama, these waqiyat from there. You know, I'm trying to look for it and find it there in this particular kitab. I don't know where is the original of it. I want to see that where is this particular waqiyah written. There was this incident which we hear from Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib, the one that I just told you now, which is in Sirat Nama, that this king and his soldiers would go from place to place, and every time there was a conquest, there was victory, then the king would then say and remark that it was because of the barakat of certain buzrugs du'as. And the soldiers there, the fighters on the ground who are doing everything, making so much of mehnat, giving life, giving blood, they found that a bitter pill to swallow. And they say, but how come we do all this mehnat, but the credit, it is getting mansoob and it's getting associated with the dua of a buzrug? Nevertheless, on one occasion, they did not go and take the dua of a buzrug. And many long weeks, a great amount of days passed in them struggling to conquer that particular fort. These people did not surrender. They had so much abundant supplies of food. So much abundant supplies of food. And then the king then thought again, and he said, but we did not take the dua of a buzrug. And then they went into searching for this certain Buzruk which was in the area, and they had come to know that he was living in this cave in the mountains or whatever it was. Nevertheless, they went at night. It was absolutely dark. The king himself took his lantern and he's walking until eventually they reach the khidmat and the presence of this Buzruk. So the king then, look at the Buzruk, and I mean they took mehnat and effort, and in the darkness they managed to come this way and that way. His first impression was that how do you stay here in this darkness? The Buzruk spontaneously replies and says to him, are you telling me that all these days I'm sitting here and making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have not even gathered that amount of light in my heart, the amount of light that you have in your lantern, that allowed you to come from that side right to this side? Are you telling me all these days I'm sitting and making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have not brought about that amount of light in my heart? Allahu Akbar. Nevertheless, he says to him then, Kaho, kya kehte ho? Well, what's it about? Why have you come? What do you need? And then he says that Hazrat, the king is saying now that this is the problem, and we have laid siege to a certain fort and we are unable to conquer. The Buzruk immediately recited the kalima tayyiba, La ilaha illallah. When he said illallah, there was such unique power, ruhaniyat, that he said it with, and the barakat of the kalima tayyiba, when he said and released the words from his mouth, illallah, it caused the wall of that fort to collapse, and automatically the fort was then conquered. And everybody is has consensus on this here, that it is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. There's nothing except that it is making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning every single thing in its own way is carrying out the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُم. But you do not understand how they make that dhikr. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. The dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest. You know, when we go to Bombay, then I think about this here, how everything is making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Sahib used to speak about, somebody stood up there in the gathering, I'm just telling you people, and Hazrat Wala was irritated about that. So then he asked that person to sit, because it was the second time he was moving about and this and that. So he says to him, that quotes this waqia on that person now there in the majlis, that Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Sahib used to quote this waqia, that sometimes people would be sitting in the majlis of that Buzruk carrying out the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then somebody would then want to relieve himself, but there was one person just designated for that. And what was the capacity that he had? He would make salb. He would snatch away that forceful feeling of wanting to go and relieve himself. He would snatch away from that, away from the person who actually needed to go and relieve himself, due to which after that there was no demand to go and answer the call of nature, and the person then would sit. So this is the ta'athirat and the effects of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La ilaha illallah. So shouldn't we also create this type of ta'athir in our dhikr? Shouldn't we have this type of kayfiyat as well? Whenever I go to the ocean and I see the waves, I also think about that even these waves in the ocean are in the dhikr and in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't you see, when these waves crash on the shore and they reach a certain point, they will only come to that certain point and then it will return. And then it will return. I went to West Indies. There also, there's something amazing there. The people or the location of the village there, or the people or the residential area is lower, and the water of the ocean there is higher. It is higher. Now, there at that point there, if the waves of the ocean has to increase and has to come beyond that limit and point, what will I tell you about that? Everything and everyone will be destroyed there, because everything is below where the people are actually staying. So this is the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was a very great alim in Gujarat. Initially in the start, from the very first people that had took bay'ah, it was his daughter. So this alim would say, tell me, can anybody bring the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like this? And look at these zalzalas, these earthquakes. Can anybody understand the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there? So anyway, I was telling you about this buzruk. So he's saying that so many days I'm sitting here in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So tell me, you're asking me how am I staying here in the dark? So what do you think? Do you think that all these days I'm sitting here, I do not have that amount of light in my heart, the amount that you have in that lantern that's in your hand there? Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. So when you say La ilaha, none worthy of worship, what do? You extract, you vacuum, and you throw out all the zulumat and the darkness out of your heart. La ilaha. And then illallah, all the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then comes penetrating, gushing, flowing into the heart of a person. So La ilaha illallah is aslul usul. It is our greatest in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Musa alayhi salatu wassalam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the way that he could remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a wazifa, then what did Allah ta'ala make talqeen and instruct him towards? It was La ilaha illallah. So here also people have come, and Allah Ta'ala is listening to what we are saying. When I go to Gujarat, people say that Maulana, this masjid was built because of your barakat. This masjid was built because of your barakat. So what was it there? What was happening there? This is how the people of Gujarat appreciated. And they said that it is because of your barakat that the masjid was built. So we're talking about ta'athir. So I'm saying here, did I do anything there? No. Maybe I made the iftitah, or I read the dua, or I done this or the other. So nevertheless, we are in this silsila and in this chain of these Buzurgan Deen that I am quoting to you, these pious saintly people. So wasn't it the same nur, about the same nur that the people feared so much, that the Sahaba possessed? It was that small group of people that came to Badr, and with so much of humbleness, they had nothing. They had no weapons. It was this helplessness that they expressed in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-ajzu fakhri, that it is humbleness. The expression of helplessness, lowering oneself down, that's my pride. According to the ajizi and helplessness and humbleness that you possess and you adopt, that's how much of qurb you will enjoy and nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So also, people will be reaching what their a'mal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what about, there will be certain people that will then come on that day and have nothing. And when they will be asked, what do you have? They will say, we have nothing. Again, that same ajizi and inkisari, that expression of helplessness. We really do have nothing, O Allah, in front of you. And it is because of that Allah will say, but I don't have that in my court here. So you people proceed directly and straight to Jannah. कुछ होना मेरा जिल्लत और खारी का सबब है. To be something, to be someone is actually a means of my downfall and disgrace. ये है मेरा एजाज, कुछ होना मेरी जिल्लत व खारी का सबब है. ये है मेरा एजाज कि मैं कुछ भी नहीं हूँ. And this is my honor, that I am nothing. This is my honor, that I am nothing. So, to be something and to be someone and to have this status, that is not prohibited. Yes, what's prohibited is to understand that. To understand that you are somebody, and you are to understand that in your heart and in your mind. So do whatever you have to do, but after achieving and after reaching, then at that time understand well that you are nothing. Have this tasawwur and in your heart. It's not only about saying it that I am nothing, it's rather about understanding it. Hazrat Sayyid Sulaiman Nadwi asked these questions to Hazrat Thanvi. It is written, you can have a look at it, read it also. What was he asking? He said that, Hazrat, what is the matlab of fana? What is this annihilation of oneself and humbling oneself to this extent? But isn't a person an alim fazil? So a person is an alim. How does he understand that? Hazrat Thanvi so beautifully replied that, yes, you are an alim. You have reached that. That's where Allah has made you reach. That's in its place. However, understand that not to be your own earning. Rather, attribute it solely that it has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna lil ilmi tughyanun. For knowledge, there is a rebelliousness that can come with it. Kama hiya lil mal. Just like how you see that people who have wealth, some type of rebelliousness comes with it sometimes. So, a person can have ilm. You don't have to make fana of your ilm. However, you should not make nazar towards your ilm. You don't have to remove and throw away your ilm. Rather, do not keep your gaze that this is my knowledge and this is how much I know. No. So, Alhamdulillahi alladhi at'amani hadha ta'am min ghayri hawlim minni wala quwwa. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has given me this food to eat, warzaqanihi, and he has granted me this rizq, min ghayri hawlim minni wala quwwa. So he pulled those instruments in the field. He done this, he done that, so much of mehnat. And after all of that, when the end result of his working and slogging is there in front of him, on the dastarkhan, he's about to eat his food, and he eats it, and after he eats it, what does he do? He attributes all of that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is this ajizi and this fana'iyat that we are talking about that should be achieved. So tariq yahi hai. This is the path of lowering oneself, annihilation, self-effacement. So it's not about being, it's about not having your gaze on that. So ana is for Allah, an Allah, I am Allah. That is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for us, we need to remove that ana. I can do this and I achieve this and I this and I that. So, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to quote this ibarat. Inna lil ilmi tughyanun ka tughyanil mal. And then he would go on to finish the ibarat with his own words, adding this, وَكَذَلِكَ لِلْعِبَادَاتِ. That similarly, this ibadat also, you carry out the ibadat of Allah, but rebelliousness can come with it. You're making ibadat, now you're thinking you're so great, and this is how much you've done, and nobody can reach up till there, etc. Jisne mitaya apna namo nisha, haft iqlim kabana sultan. The one who has annihilated himself, his name, any traces of him, he had then become he was the one who reigns supreme. He's the one who then gets acceptance. Now this is a very wonderful share of Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Sahib. And what about Haji Sahib's share in this regard as well? मैं तो नामो निशा मिटा बेटा, मैं तो अपना नामो निशा मिटा बेटा, शोहरा उड़ा दिया मेरा किसने. I have sat down here, hiding myself, erasing my names and my name and my traces and everything about me, humbling myself completely and totally, concealed and hidden away from people. I just wonder who took my name and made it so popular in the entire world. You know, there was a person with us and we were traveling in the train, and you know, you have these compartments there. So we were sitting in this one compartment and he went on and on speaking about Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then from those other compartments there, Hindu people came and sat nearby. And then we even asked, or they asked that, you people came here, and then they started saying what you were talking about, it felt very nice. Aapki baatein, you know, it felt very nice. It was attracting us. It was pulling us here. So the talks of Allah and His Rasul has this kashish. It has this magnetic effect and pull within it, that it will pull. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab was mu'ayyad min Allah. He was helped from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people even remarked about him that when he used to sit on the masnad of the dars, on the takht of Shaykhukhat, where he would give his majlis, it was as if he would talk that ulum, that nur, that ma'arif. It was as if he had Shah Waliullah on the one side, and as if he had Hazrat Shah Ismail Shaheed on the other side. That was the power, nur, knowledge, ulum, fuyuz, barakat, ruhaniyat, nuraniyat that was coming. So anyway, these people had come from the West Indies. So I said this year on that note that these people will not understand, but my dua is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I spoke about ta'athir. Allah ta'ala put the ta'athir of what I'm saying, create that within their hearts, create muhabbat of Allah and His ma'rifat. You know, the muhabbat and this of Allah was in the birds as well. Did they not come and listen to the recitation of the Zabur being recited by Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salatu wassalam? What about the kuffar of Makkah? Did they not say, La tasma'u li hadha al-Quran? Do not listen to this Quran. What did they fear the most? That perhaps if their women folk, children and village folk, the people there of Makkah, if they started listening, they would most definitely then have been affected by the recitation of the Quran. And it shows us there's atharat in all of this, and the most ta'athir and effects lie within the Quran Majid. Therefore, Hazrat Wala then after that addresses Qari Naeem Sahib and saying to him that now you recite a bit. He recites a portion of Surah Rahman, and thereafter Hazrat Wala then starts off making the dua in the conclusion of this majlis, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put effect and athar in this whatever we had heard and listened to, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create that nuraniyat in this majlis, and let it be beneficial and let it be a means of us getting qurb, proximity and acceptance in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And such it must be that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes happy, and we then are blessed with his shafa'at. It is not only for us, but rather this dua of mine is for all the men folk and all the women folk. Allah ta'ala include them in this year, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq of making ittiba', following these talimat, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the nur of the heart, the nur of Iman. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.